I said, Dr. Flum, can you help me? He said, I'm going to try to help you get your pension. Dr. Flum also admitted that the causation was never answered to. He knew he didn't write these medical certificates. He admitted it. He said, I didn't write these. And what's a pain syndrome, he asked me. In March 27, 2003, right after I met with Dr. Flum, Commissioner Clinton, March 27th, 2003, writes me a letter. You see, it was only a couple days later, Commissioner Clinton called me up. Actually, it was the next day later. The letter might have been written a couple days later. The next day, Commissioner Clinton called me up at my house and says, Michael, I heard you just met with Dr. Flum yesterday. I said, yes, I did. He says, Michael, he says, I'm going to try to get you a pension. I'm going to reopen your case and try to get you a line of duty disability pension. I said to Commissioner Clinton, thank you very much. The next day he called me back and told me, Mike, I'm sorry. Don't let me help you get your pension. Now, Commissioner Scarpetta was the fire commissioner then. I would assume the only person that could have stopped him was the fire commissioner, but he didn't tell me, Commissioner Clinton, who stopped him. In this letter, it states, Dr. Flum may have expressed some sympathy to your position. There is nothing that he can do at present to assist you, because any further contact by you with Dr. Flum will be seen as a harassment. You must cease and desist. You must cease and desist from contacting him in any way. I trust that this letter clarifies the city and the fire department's position on your matter. This was sent to Mayor Bloomberg, CC'd to Mayor Bloomberg, Commissioner Scarpetta, and to Dr. Francis Flum, the 1B Board Chairman of the 1B Board. Dr. Flum may have expressed some sympathy in your position. He sure did. He wanted me to get my pension, wanted to help me. Matter of fact, the one statement he said to me, he says, Michael, he says, a lot of firemen that deserve disability pensions don't get them. And he says, a lot of firemen that do get them don't deserve them. Now, getting back to the FBI investigation that I was talking about. The FBI comes to my house and hooks up a machine to my telephone and asks me and tells me if anybody calls, just to press this button on this machine. A few weeks go by after the investigation starts, at the end of 2003 and the beginning of 2004, which lasted again for a year and a half. A few weeks go by and Mr. Bob Hennigan calls me up, the investigator for the FBI, from the corruptions unit, and states, Mike, we just hit a 9 out of 10. Those are his exact words. Mike, we just hit a 9 out of 10. It's never happened before since I'm working for the FBI. My disability fraud case falls within the RICO statute for conspiracy and the fixing of disability pension cases. And fixing pension cases is a very serious matter. And I believe is regarding under the racketeering laws, covers the racketeering laws. I have never stopped fighting for my case at any point. last July in 2010, I wrote a letter, July 5th, 2010, to Congressman Towns. Call me at any time. Approximately 4 or 5 occasions, Bob Hennigan visited my house, getting documents. John Campy was also another investigator from the FBI who was investigating my case, along with Mr. Hennigan, from the Corruptions Unit at 26 Federal Plaza, New York. At one point, my attorneys, Rosemary Carroll and Gary Berenholtz, Bob Hennigan asked them to call me up because they faxed over, I had to sign a release so the FBI could look at the records maintained by my attorneys involved in the fraud. So Rosemary Carroll faxed me a letter, and Gary Berenholtz faxed me a letter. I signed the release so they could show the documents and talk about my fraud to Bob Hennigan. The next day, both Rosemary and Gary called me up and said, Michael, we explained all the fraud to the FBI that was going on with your case. Nearing the end of the year-and-a-half investigation, Bob Hennigan called me up and told me, Michael, our part of our investigation, our part of our investigation is done. The case is ready for prosecution, but the fire department and the city of New York refuses to give us your documents. Bob explained the procedure that at the end of the investigation, the last thing they do is get the documents from the city and the fire department, and then those documents are given to the U.S. Attorney, Raza Moskoff in Brooklyn. On a couple of occasions, Bob Hennigan had told me and my wife that my investigation was coming from the very top in Washington. It wasn't coming from the U.S. Attorney in Brooklyn. It was coming from the very top in Washington, D.C. Bob Hennigan wasn't lying. This is what he told us. He said he had a report once a month to the Washington office involved in my investigation. It turned out that he had asked for my documents not once, twice, but 3 times. He asked the U.S. Attorney's office to sign a subpoena because the fire department was refusing and the city of New York was refusing to hand over all my documents involved in my pension case. He was turned down by Raza Moskoff's office 3 times. Bob says, Michael, this has never happened to me before. I've never had to ask more than once for a subpoena to get these documents. Your case is all ready. And the prosecutor won't do anything and won't sign the subpoena. I don't know what happened with the Washington office, if he ever asked the Washington office for a subpoena getting my documents. But then they never got the documents for prosecution. Since my reversal of my appellate court decision in 1994, I've been writing letters to the Fire Commissioner's office and letters to the Mayor's office. These are all letters I've been writing over the years to Mayor Bloomberg, and I believe to Mayor Giuliani even before then. Mayor Bloomberg since 1994. These are all the answers and replies from the Corporation Council in the City of New York, year after year after year, refusing to reopen my pension case and to answer to my causation after 21 years.